We now turn to Thursday mornings and to Susan Griffin. Susan, you're there. Susan has designed a course, and she'll tell you more about this, that has incredible vision, really tackles, I think, some of the tough stuff, polemics on the ground around sustainability. And so I'm delighted that she's here with us. Susan Griffin.
You know, how many times during the week or maybe even day do you turn to a friend and say, my God, the whole world's falling apart? You know, yeah. And on what level are we talking about? There's the issue of warfare, which in only a subsidiary way will we take on in this class, but there's the issue of climate change and the environment, and there's our terrible economy. So we've got and the 99% of us who are suffering terribly, and the inequity in income and resources that the country faces. And we often, you know, look at this and say, oh my God, you know, there's just too much. I can't address any of it. I'm just going to go home and watch television, you know. But in fact, when you begin to see that this is not these are not separate issues, but it's really one issue underneath. And that's what this course is going to be looking at. It's going to be looking at how ecology and social justice are intertwined. And we can begin, and if we begin to understand that, I think responding in a way, in a healing way, to the crises we're facing is going to be much more effective. So let me give you some, in the course what we're going to do is we're going to look at this interconnection. And we'll look at certain issues like, think of the, well, let me tell you one issue. Let's look at uranium mining. Uranium mining is incredibly toxic. You may not know about that, but I wrote a book about nuclear weapons in which I talk about radiation a lot. And so I interviewed people who had been affected by toxic radiation, and in the period when we were doing a lot of atomic testing, and what was also going on was this uranium mining in the Southwest. And guess who was doing a lot of the mining? Anybody here know? Navajos. That's right. And they would even, the water that, you know, the villages didn't have enough water, so they would take buckets of water home from the mines, or this water that had run off the face of the mines and was incredibly full of radiation. And then the women would use that mixing it with formula to feed their infants. You know, so you can imagine the rate of cancer and terrible health effects. Okay, so here you've got, oh my God, only 1 minute. Okay, so you've got, so right there you see the connection. I just saw something on the internet yesterday about Port Arthur, Texas. Huge plumes of black smoke coming out of an oil refinery. And guess who's living right around Port Arthur, right in the region, is going to be affected by those huge huge streams of black smoke? A community that is largely living below the poverty level and is largely African American. So we see this repeated. It's right here in our own community. You look at Richmond and the oil refineries and who is most affected by the toxicity there. So we're going to have a series of speakers, and they're just terrific people. And I wish I had more time and I'd tell you about all of them, but Professor Vijaya Nagarajan is, for instance, she teaches courses on Hinduism over at San Francisco University, and she's going to be, so that's going to be a day in which we can talk about imperialism and its effects on erasing cultures, other points of view. The modern world for imperialism, of course, is globalization. You know, but India, of course, is a prime example of what happened with imperialism. And Vijaya's work, among other things, is focused on a woman's ritual, which is a very holistic ritual, which in which the 10,000 things are being fed every day. So I'll interview her about that. She'll come, and so that's a way of us understanding a sort of arrogant attitude of our culture towards other cultures that have different views of nature, oftentimes far more holistic, and which would, could save us right now. Another speaker that I'm going to interview, okay, let me just go through this quickly. Melissa Nelson is a Native American. She's the head of the Native American Studies Department over at San Francisco State University. She's part of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians. And so we're going to be talking about Native American philosophies, because the underlying theme of the course is that the philosophy that we have in this culture that drives both our economy and our attitude towards nature is a philosophy of hierarchies in which we look at the other people and the earth as something to be exploited. We'll also have Carl Armstrong. Many of you must know Carl Armstrong, so again, Paloma Pavel, and they'll be talking about breakthrough communities, African-American communities that have, and multicultural communities that have banded together to focus both on economy and environment at the same time. And then we're going to end with Jerry Mander. And do you know Jerry Mander? He wrote this wonderful book, Four Arguments for the Elimination of Television. One of his most recent books is The Capitalism Papers, in which he gives an environmental understanding of modern capitalism. I find it just an incredibly illuminating book, and then he ends with solutions. So the course is going to be looking at the underlying philosophy that has led us to this mess that we're in now, but also it's going to be looking at the way out. He has a chapter, Which Way Out, in his book, and our course is going to be, with every meeting, looking at ways out, and we'll discuss it as a class too. So.
Susan, thank you very much.